Eka halaliam la Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Makaha Kodash. As is written, let the elders that rule well become worthy of double honors, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine, which are the Presbyterian of Great Millstone, beginning with the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders on down. Peace and salutation to all Yakim of the hopeful election. Continue to push his truth in honesty and sincerity, and in the favor names of Yahweh wa Yahushai. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, whom the world that calls God. Yahweh means he to be, he is, he exists. That's the power of heaven and earth. Okay, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, his name is Yahweh. The son's name is Yahushai, whom the world calls JC. Yahushai means the deliverer or his savior. That's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and the Messiah that came to die for the sins of Israel, beginning with the elect. And the Rocha Kodash is the Spirit Holy. And these are the names they're supposed to call upon and pray to, especially you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. I know they want the heathen and look like the heathen, but still it goes back to the patriarchy of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the father side. Let's go into it. Now, what we've been witnessing, okay, as of late, going to these Epstein files, okay, is the fact that these Americans, okay, are coming to grips with the fact that the government, okay, or rather, the people that they thought was supposed to protect them, keep them safe, okay, and care for them, that they don't really care for them and do not protect them, okay. And really, what it boils down to is that these women, okay, the so-called white women, are beginning to see that they're men, okay, the so-called white men, which is supposed to be their protector, okay, their provider, okay, and someone that's supposed to care for them, okay, does not care for them. And this has been made evident, okay, especially with these women that were victims of the Epstein files. All right, here it is. The files came out. All the men that were implicated, all the men that are supposed to be, that were involved in it, their names got redacted. Okay, their names got blocked out, but the women that were victimized, okay, their names got published. All right, and ultimately, when it came down to it, there's no justice has been served, and these women now they feel like there's something that's owing to them. And the fact of the matter is that their trust and their faith in the so-called white man's protection, okay, is dying out, is fading out. Okay, this is an indicative to this, in the scriptures, basically how it talks about how, for one, the Heavenly Father is going to turn, the curses upon our enemies. Okay, and one of the curses that fell upon us as a people is the fact that, our women, okay, basically saw us now in a bad light. And now these women, the so-called white woman, is trying to see her man, her so-called white man in a bad light. The fact that, here it is, even the woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, she got thrown in jail, and she's out, she's looking bad out there, okay, behind bars, okay, but yet, it's coming out that Jeffrey Epstein is actually somewhere out there, living his best life. You see, so you women, you're going to take that, you're going to take that and have it to where it's gonna grow into like a disdain for you for the so-called white men. Okay, there's a saying in the world, it goes like hell hath no fury as a woman scorned. And this so-called white woman is being scorned, and this is all for the public to see. It's all for the whole country, the whole world to witness this. You see, so I'm gonna play some of this video, and then I'm gonna bring out scriptures. Okay, and the fact of the matter is that the so-called white man, the fact that not only is this society crumbling, okay, he's been exposed, and his women, basically, his last his last hope for for support, is going to leave him, right? And ultimately, it's going to be out there, and on his own. So this is the end. This is literally the end. Okay, there's no turning back from this, man. There's no healing. There's no going back. There's nothing that they can do to fix this. You see, let's go and get this.
Is 53 now, and
so I say these are fair use. Okay, I'm not making any money or any monetary from these monetary profit from this video. So this is all for fair. This is all for educational purposes. Okay, and these are just opinions that they were expressing. Okay, so this is fair use, fair use. All right.
I was just raised differently. I was raised to respect our government. I was raised to be able to speak to people of different political parties. And maybe I don't always agree with them, but their insights help me shape my opinions. And I just don't see that happening. And that's what I grew up in. That's the America that I grew up in. And for us
So she said that that's the America that she grew up in. America, that she was raised to basically, respect the government, to have faith in the, in the justice system. Okay, but that's, they've been these women have been completely left out. All right, and it's not just this, also like, when it happened, when the woman Renee Good, she got shot by ICE, by the ICE agents. Okay, that was a so-called black woman. You already know how much backlash the government would have gotten. But now, here it is, a so-called white woman got shot in broad daylight. Okay, point blank range. Okay, and there wasn't any outcry. There wasn't really any visible, people were out there protesting. It wasn't like there was there was basically, there was really anything that happened. Okay, it just came and went. So now these women are starting to see, that they really don't have any protection. So therefore, they're going to, abandon ship, abandon, that so-called, that white shining, armor that they had in the so-called white man. Even Trump, Trump is becoming very unpopular as the days goes on. Okay, and Trump, was the last, was the last hope for these white people. Okay, and he's basically it's coming out that he was one of the biggest predators, when it comes into these Epstein files, and really that's putting a whole bad light, bad image, okay, to the so-called white men in general. You see, you have men, across the globe being implicated, even over there in the UK, this guy, Prince, well, now it's not Prince anymore, the Andrew, okay, he got arrested, okay, and a whole bunch of other men in Europe, are facing, criminal charges for being part of this, and these are all, they're all Edomites, so-called white men, you see.
Now feel like the Department of Justice, which is in charge of seeking justice for all Americans who are victims of crime, they've just completely let us down. And so to hear her say, if you have been a victim of crime, we want you to call the FBI. I called the FBI. I called the FBI, and in the release of files, my intake report was released twice. Once with my part of my address, and once where my name was unredacted several times, including in a sentence that said Stein was a victim of Epstein and Maxwell in the mid-90s. So I find it really difficult to have any faith when we are constantly, being
manipulated. She said, said we are constantly, being manipulated and downplayed by our government. That's a major statement. This is exactly how so-called blacks felt or been for the longest time. But now this is, you so-called white people, specifically you white women, are feeling this. Okay, and once it's, because ultimately, back then, here it is, like, a white girl, whenever there's any, any crime or any, anything that had to do with the white women being in distress, that was like, everything everything had to be stopped, okay, and ultimately to go, rescue that white girl. But now, these white women, they don't feel that protection anymore. Okay, that protection is gone. You see, even in the case with the, there's this, it's been in the news, the cancer to find this white woman that got kidnapped. Basically, this is the mother of a news reporter, the famous news reporter, and it's been like days now, and they still haven't found her. And like usually, these things get resolved in a matter of of hours. Okay. But now, it's been days and days, and people, the family, is, they tried everything. They try to give out a cash incentive. Okay, but they still haven't found this woman, these old women. Okay, and these are all white women that they're feeling the pain. Okay, they're feeling that, they're feeling that they're being let down, right? So I'm going to go and get the scripture first before I go on. Let's get this in the book of let's go to the curses, right? The book of Deuteronomy 30 verse 7. Yeah, and it reads, this is the book of Deuteronomy 30 verse 7, and it reads, and the Lord Yahweh, thy power, will put all these curses upon thine enemies. And those are enemies, the top enemy. When you go to the book of Psalms, the 3rd chapter, it tells you, gives you a list of what, of our enemy, and the top enemy, arch enemy, the so-called white race. Okay, the Edomites, so-called Caucasians. Then you have the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabs. Then you have the Moabites, so-called Chinese, and the rest. And the list goes on. You see, so and the Lord Yahweh, thy power, will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Now let's get one of the curses that people have to go through, and this is the curse that are going to be transferred onto our enemies. So the book of Deuteronomy, when you go to this chapter, chapter 28, start from the 15th verse on down, it gives you a list of the curses that befall our people because we did not obey the Heavenly Father. Right, so let's go to the verse down here to verse 56, right? And it reads, Deuteronomy 28 verse 56 says, the tender and delicate woman among you which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. That's ultimately how these so-called white women have been faring on in society. Okay, they've been basically just living off of that, the privilege of white supremacy. They're the ones that benefited from it the most, right? So it says, the tender and delicate woman among you which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and for tenderness. So the whole thing about the DEI, I can't forget that. The DEI, came out, okay, that's the, how's it go? Basically, it was an incentive to make the workplace more, more liberal, all right? So the DEI really it benefited white women more than anybody else. And now once Trump came into office, he cut all that down. Okay, now a lot of these white women end up losing their jobs. You see, so ultimately all this is going to grow into resentment for the so-called white man. It says, so here again, the tender and delicate woman among you which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, okay, and toward her son and toward her daughter. Okay, so ultimately, the point of the matter is that, her eye is going to be evil toward her husband. Let's get this in another version. Let's go to the Bible Hub real quick. Get this in the try this one in the let's get the NIV. It says, the most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband of her, the husband that she loves, and her own son or daughter. So that's the NIV. In the NLT it says, the most tender and delicate woman among you, so delicate she would not so much as touch the ground with her foot, will be selfish toward the husband she loves and toward her own son or daughter. Okay, we see here. So begrudge. Yes, it is in the New American Standard Bible, okay, the NASB. It says, the the, the refined and delicate woman among you who would not venture to set the sole of her foot on the ground because of her delicateness and tenderness will be hostile toward the husband she cherishes, she cherishes, and toward her son and daughter. That's good, man. Right? Let me see here. Yeah, hostile. That's a better word. I like the hostile. Right? I don't know. In the AMP, Amplified Bible, it says, "The most refined and well-bred woman among you who would not venture to set the sole of her foot on the ground because she is so delicate and pampered," right, will be cruel and hostile toward the husband she cherishes and toward her son and her daughter. Ultimately, this is what going to the resentment is growing up. Is growing up, man, right? So you can see here some of the men. Let me actually get this as well. So let's go back here.
Where my name was unredacted several times, including in a sentence that said, Stein was a victim of Epstein and Maxwell in the mid-90s. So, I find it really difficult to have any faith when we are constantly, being manipulated and downplayed by our government. We've heard several times our government say, we're moving on from this, and that just enrages me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This has been 3 decades.
Yeah, that's that, it says, hell hath no fury like as a woman scorned. You see? So this is it for you so-called white people, for you so-called white men. This is your end. Your woman is not going to even, tells in scriptures, which I'm gonna get as well. It talks about that basically once Edom gets judged, okay, once his punishment, gets, starts coming down, even his widows will not bewail her or mourn for him, right?
Of my life. We'd all love to move on with this, but how do you move on if you don't have justice? And the Department of Justice's job is to seek justice. And they, for some reason, don't feel like they have to. And that's just incomprehensible.
You and I have talked.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, man. It's incomprehensible. They can't believe it. Okay, but guess what? This is how it's been for the tribes since we've been in America. The tribes are talking about the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Let's play this video of this guy right here, Prince Andrew, right? There's a whole bunch of these are all like Edomite men. Okay, that being implicated by this.
What car do you drive?
I drive a 2018 Volkswagen Golf R. It's mainly stock. I cut out the resonator, but
House of Cards has started falling is in the House of Windsor. Eric Sorensen, Global address to the AI Summit, Epstein.
They are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done.
It's a colossal failure of justice, failure of accountability.
But pressure is building on Casey Wasserman to step down as chair of the 28 Los Angeles Olympics. And Bill Gates has canceled a keynote address to the AI Summit in India amid the Epstein controversy. The family of Virginia Giuffre, who accused former Prince Andrew of sexual abuse, is optimistic others will face justice.
I think we're very hopeful that this is the start of the domino effect. This is where the House of Cards starts falling.
Astonishingly, where the House of Cards has started.
This is the man right here, the so-called white man. As you can see, this is a good shot of this, because as you can see, this shows you that it's not really white. He's really pink, okay, light pink, which that goes into when Esau Edom came out. It tells you that he was hairy all over, like it was red all over like a hairy garment. Okay, and I think about Esau too is that it tells in scriptures that he's the most profane. Let's get that in the book of Hebrews. That's Hebrews 12. Let's see. Yeah, Hebrews 12 verse 16 reads, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, Okay, a profane person is someone that's outside a temple, and outside a temple, that's for whoremongers. Okay, idolaters. Okay, and people, basically that, and that's are not granted into the temple. And that's Esau Edom. Okay, so lest there be any fornicator. Okay, and a fornicator is someone that's constantly going off. Someone that's constantly sinning, or a profane person as Esau, as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Okay, and this man, is coming out that he's the most profane, as you can see. All right, there's also another story here of this rich billionaire in Canada. Okay, up in Canada, is being charged for rape charges. Right.
To the sexual assault trial of Canadian billionaire Frank Stronach next. It's finally...
So what's really coming out is that, we begin to see that, you so-called white people, you have no game, okay? You don't know how to, for one, you're not really manly, okay? For you to get a woman, you have to, either, pay for them or drug them up, get them all drugged up, okay, liquored up, okay, to where, they're drugged. And then you have your way with them, and so the fact that that you are a PDF aisle, okay, that you're into little babies, okay, this is all coming out. It's beautiful, man.
Set to begin today after being delayed more than a week. His lawyer had asked for extra time, saying she received a large volume of disclosure at the last minute. The 93-year-old has pleaded not guilty to a dozen decades-old charges involving 7 complainants. The defense also raised concerns that some witnesses may have...
Once again, a bunch of Edomites, okay? So-called white men. So this is beautiful. So okay. Let's go back here and get some more of this.
If you have painful, recurring skin lumps, consider our clinical study of an investigational treatment
address to the AI summit in India amid the Epstein controversy. The family of Virginia Giuffre, who accused former Prince Andrew of sexual abuse, is optimistic others will face justice.
I think we're very hopeful that this is the start of the domino effect. This is where the house of cards starts falling.
Astonishingly, where the house of cards has started falling
and
is
all
in
these
the...
men are involved. It's so much. It goes so much to where, all the names that came out. That if they all got implicated, it'll bring down the whole system. That will show you that the whole, all your government, politicians, okay, all your famous. Your idols, they look up to, they're a bunch of depraved sexual deviants, okay, a bunch of lowlifes, all right?
House of Windsor. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
President Trump, who says it's time to move on from the Epstein...
Trump says it's time to move on from the Epstein files. Why is that? I wonder why that is.
Files wanted to focus today on his so-called Board of Peace. Several member countries have pledged billions towards a relief.
Scripture says there's no peace unto the wicked. Okay, peace. There's no peace for you, man. Another thing too. Let me get this first. Tell me what the Board of Peace, right? The book of Isaiah 48 verse 22, and it reads, "There is no peace, said the Lord Yahweh, unto the wicked." Okay, that's just that. Other one too. What was it? I just had it. So come back to me.
Relief package for Gaza, but most Western allies are staying away. There's concern what started as an effort to rebuild Gaza is turning into an attempt to replace the UN, with Trump putting himself in charge.
Come back to me. It's actually this is one of my favorite scriptures. Yeah, Khan, right here. The book of Isaiah 14 verse 20, and it reads, "Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land," okay, "and slain thy people." It's talking about what? It's talking about the so-called white man, Esau Edom, okay, the seed of the evildoers. Who's the evildoer? The so-called white race, beginning with the top banking families, okay, the powers that be, okay. These are all a bunch of low lives that can't get any punani without having to like drug them, pay for it, or just completely basically they have no game. Okay, that's what it really comes down to. That's what ultimately why Jake be getting all these Edomite women. Okay, Jake be getting all kinds of women from all races because Jake actually has game. Jake knows how to talk to women. Jake actually knows how to deal. But there's other nations, they're men. They're a bunch of lowlifes, man. They're a bunch of they're a bunch of depraved, sickos. Okay, they have all these crazy lusts. Okay, and they can only fulfill them through coercion. Okay. It says, thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, meaning once Edom gets destroyed, okay, it's going to basically get a dishonorable discharge, okay, and a dishonorable burial. You see, it's going to be out there, like as dung. So thou shalt not be joined with them in burial because thou hast destroyed their land. Okay, I should see what they did to America. America used to be a lush, beautiful land. And it's not going to be turned into a desert. Okay, once the missiles hit it, says and slaying their people, and ultimately that's what East Edom has done. East Edom, with these endless wars and his endless war propaganda, war machine, he has slain his people. So the seed of the evildoers shall never be renowned. That's right. So now you have this guy right here, Prince Andrew, which was supposed to be like a prince, but now he's being shamed. Right, look at this. Back here. Yeah, right here. That's it. Look at this guy, man. The seed of the evildoer should never be renowned. That's a fact. That's right. We'll go ahead and get this thing out, close up. Yeah, this book of Job 27 verse 15. And it reads, verse 14. Verse 13. The book of Job 27 verse 13, and it reads, this is a portion of a wicked man with the Most High. And who's that? It's talking about the so-called white man, so-called white Caucasian man. This is the portion of a wicked man with the Most High and the heritage of oppressors. Who's the oppressor? You already know, the so-called white man, which they shall receive of the Almighty. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. Okay, and ultimately that's why they can never get enough. Okay, they want everything. Says verse 15 is the point. Those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widows shall not weep. And why is that? That's because ultimately, his woman is waking up to the fact that the so-called white man is a devil. Okay, is a deceiver. Okay, and a scoundrel. Okay, is a piece of shit. Okay, low life, scumbag. Okay?
Love to move on with this, but how do you move on if you don't have justice? And the Department of Justice's job is to seek justice. And they, for some reason, don't feel like they have to. And that's just incomprehensible.
You and I have talked before. I see a lot of emotion in your face.
Yeah.
This is all coming back up again for you.
Survivors of sexual assault, we are chastised so frequently. Why didn't you tell? Why didn't you fight back? All of these questions. And here we're seeing survivors have been telling and they have been speaking out, starting 3 decades ago when Maria Farmer first reported.
Bill Gates breaking his silence over his name appearing in the Jeffrey Epstein files, saying, "I regret every minute spent together with Epstein." And Bill Gates' ex-wife, Melinda French Gates, making it very clear tonight who she believes should be answering the questions about this now. Here's Pierre Thomas.
Every minute he insists. Tonight, his ex-wife, Melinda French Gates, says this
from even my ex-husband.
Very, very painful times in her marriage.
Whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
The Justice Department's release of
from even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
well,
and I am so happy to be away from.
Do that again.
All the muck from even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
the Justice
She said she's so happy to be away from all the muck. There's a muck right here.
Department's release of more than 3 million pages of documents.
So I'm going in there. I want to say Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai. I want to say Kwame Sharwallah wa Abad Babal. Shalom, Akim, Shalom.